Hello. This is a video on how to play the card game Cuarenta. I have a hard time pronouncing it. That's the Spanish name. More commonly, it's just called 40 in any English-speaking country. It's actually the national card game of the country Ecuador in South America. But other than that, outside of that country, it's not really played. It's more of a niche card game. And so it can actually be played from anywhere between 2 and 4 people. In this case, we'll be playing with 4 people, right? And so if there are 4 players, then there are 2 teams. The partners sit across from each other. And so in this case, Robot 3 and me are partners. And then in this case, I guess every player is called Robot 3. So left is partners with right. Up top is partners with bottom. So one of the teammates has the objective of keeping the score, while the other collects cards as they are won. And so 40, I'm not going to try to sing the Spanish name, Cuarenta or 40, is played with 40 cards from a standard 52 card deck. The 8s, the 9s, and the 10s are removed, leaving the numbers Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the face cards of Jack, Queen, King. Do note that in 40, the aces are actually low, and so they are the lowest ranked card, right? Rather than being the highest ranked card. The removed 8, 9s, and 10s are not used in playing the game, but they're used to keep score. At the start of the game, you place them off to the side, and you actually use them to keep score. In this case, score is going to be kept electronically, and so we wouldn't need them. But other than that, you'd use them to keep score. And so what you'll have to do is once one side counts as 2 points, and the other side counts as 10 points, right? On the, I guess, score keeping cards. Do note that in terms of starting the game, each player has to pick a card. Each card then has its own value, right? Ace being worth 1 point, Jack, Queen, and King being worth 10 points. And each player just picks a card. This isn't even part of the game. This is just before the game. The team that picks cards with more points has the right to deal the cards. The player that deals the cards then places them on the table. And the opponent to the left cuts the cards, and then each player then gets 5 cards. And so that's quite an extensive dealing process. Honestly, I say just deal each player 5 cards. It's much simpler that way. It's much easier, and it's less time consuming, and it's less confusing. And so each player gets 5 cards. Notice how I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These players have 4, but they played 1. The player to my left has 4, but he also played 1. And so each player gets 5 cards, right? And so that's 20 cards total that have been dealt. And then once all players have their cards, the player to the right of the dealer plays first. And so basically how you play is you deal 5 cards to each player, right? And so what you'll basically do is the cards left over from the deal are kept in a face down stack. These cards will be dealt later, but they weren't initially dealt. And so after everyone has played their 5 cards, and one we'll talk about playing. And so the player to the dealer's left begins, and the turn to play it passes clockwise. And so each player in turn must play a card from the hand face up on their table. The player may result in some cards being captured from the table, in which case the played cards and the captured cards are taken and stacked face down in front of one member of the player's team. It's like taking a trick. If the played card does not capture anything, it stays face up on the table and may itself be captured by a later play. And so there are 3 ways in which a played card can capture cards from the table. And so you can really play any card, but matching. So if the played card is the same rank as a card on the table, the matching card can be captured. So for example, if the table contains a Jack, and I play Jack, I capture not only I capture that other jack on the table, and I get to capture both of them, placing it in my trick pile. If the played card is a number card, it can capture a set of cards whose values add up to that of the played card. And so the values are the obvious ones, right? You have ace equals 1, 2 equals 2, 3 equals 3, etc. up to 7. And so jacks, queens, and kings have no numerical value. They cannot capture or be captured by addition. For example, if the table contains a 2 and a 3 and you play a 5, you can capture the 3 and the 2 and put all 3 cards in your trick pile. If the table contains an ace, a 2, and a 4, you can capture all 3 of these cards by playing a 7. And then finally, you can capture by playing a sequence. So when a capture is made by matching or addition, a card next higher in rank than the played card may also be picked up from the table, along with any further cards from the table forming an unbroken upward sequence. And the ranking order is ace, 2, 3, all the way up to king. And so if a player matches a 2 on the table by playing a 2 from their hand, the player can also collect a 3 if one is on the table, as well as collect an ace if one is on the table. This collection of sequential cards may continue until the sequence is broken. And so if the face-up cards on the table are 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, jack, then by playing a 2, you can capture 2, 3, 4, 5, the 2 by matching, and the 3, 4, 5 by sequence. This leaves the 7 and the jack on the table. Note that we can't capture the 7 and the jack because the 6 is missing from the sequence. In essence, let's just talk about what you can really do here. And so you can capture cards in 3 ways, right? Matching the rank. So there's a jack, and let's just play honestly. I know what just happened. Okay, let's talk about what just happened there. On the table there, one of the players, and I wasn't really keeping track of, I didn't exactly catch who it was, so I apologize. But one of the players there played a jack. That meant that they could capture both the queen and the king. So they played a jack to match the jack on the table, capture by matching. They then captured by sequence, because since queen and king are right after jack, they're able to capture by sequence. And so that's how you sort of capture by sequence, right? You can capture by matching, just by matching the rank. You can capture by addition, if you play a card whose sum is also on the table. And then you can capture by sequence, in which you see while you're capturing by addition or matching that the sequence of cards, that there's a sequence of cards next higher in rank than the played card on the table. You can also capture those cards as well. So matching, addition, sequence. Those are the 3 ways to capture cards. So how do you play 40? Each player's dealt 5 cards. You also have to remove the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, and they're used to keep score. Each player's dealt 10 cards, right? 5 cards, sorry. Each player's dealt 5 cards. And you can capture cards by matching, by addition, or by sequence, which is an added bonus onto matching and addition. And so, do note that if there's more than one possible, right? So let's say you can do both a matching and an addition capture. So let's say there's a 5 and a 2 on the board, and you can play. There's a 5, 2, and a 7 on the board. You can play a 7 to capture both the 5 and the 2, or you can play a 7 to capture the 7. In that case, you pick one of the captors, but you cannot do both. A sequence capture, once again, can only be made if the played card makes a matching or addition capture at the same time. If a 5 is on the table, playing a 4 does not capture the 5 unless the 4 also makes a capture by matching or addition. Capturing by sequence can only be done if the played card makes a matching or addition capture at the same time. If a player captures by matching or addition, but fails to take all or part of a sequence capture, the players on the other team may take the sequence cards for themselves. And so if you forget to take the sequence, your opponents could take the sequence. And so basically you just have to be smart, right? If there's a sequence capture, you have to take it. If you forget it, your opponents can pick up the cards without having to play any themselves. And so that's how you play. And so we'll talk about this is the play phase, and we'll talk about what you have to do after the play phase, right? So just matching, addition, and sequence. That's the way you can capture. And so let's play. Let's just continue playing, and we'll talk about some more, I guess, aspects of the game here. And so let's play. Remember, the objective so far in the play phase is just to capture cards. In this case, we can't really capture any, and so I'm just going to play my 6 there. That player on the right played a 5 to capture the 5 by matching. They then were able to capture the 6 by sequence. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play the 2. The player to my right played the ace to capture by matching, and then was able to capture the 2 by sequence. And so we can't really, I don't really see any, I guess. So play the jack to capture by matching, and then capture the queen by sequence, right? So the player to my right is being smart, capturing a lot of cards. And we'll talk about what that was there. And so what you just saw said Kata. And so Kata is when you capture the card immediately played by the player before you just by matching it. And the team that makes that capture of Kata scores 2 extra points. And note that a capture is only a Kata if the card is captured by matching by the next player in turn, immediately after the captured card was played. Taking the previous player's card by addition or sequence is not a Kata. And so you get a little bonus there as well. And this is somewhat confusing. I apologize. But it's different and it's fun, right? And so we play those 2, matching, taking e7. And that's the other special case. That's called Olympia. And so, if a player clears the table of all cards, that player's team receives 2 points for a Olympia, aka clean. It often happens that one player puts a card down on an empty table and the next player makes a Kata on that card and takes it off the table, which also has the effect of clearing the table, right? And so, let's say you capture the previous card immediately played by matching, and that also cleans the table. In this case, you'd get 4 points. 2 for Kata and 2 for Olympia. So, let's sum it up here, right? So far, what we know. 5 cards to each player. The game, this is how to play 40. 5 cards to each player. And you want to capture cards in the play phase. Capture cards by either matching the rank of the card, by addition, in which you play a card whose sum is present in other cards on the table, and by sequence, in which when you're capturing by matching or addition, the card immediately of the next rank above or below is present, and you can capture that card as well. Remember, you can capture an entire sequence if an entire sequence is present and the circumstances are proper. You have 2 special cases of Kata and Olympia. Kata is capturing the card just played by the previous player by matching it immediately. And so if Lefty here played a 2 and I played a 2, that's capturing by matching, and I immediately capture the 2 that was played. I get 2 points for Kata. Olympia is when a player clears the table of all cards, and so if there's a 7 left, if the 7 is the only card on the table, and I play 7, or in this case, let's just go with this queen. If this queen was the only card on the table and I play this queen, well then, I clear the table of all cards. So I'd receive 2 points for a Olympia, aka a clean. So, matching, addition, sequence, and then you get bonus points for a Cuarenta or a Olympia. That wraps up the play phase. And so play continues until everyone has played their 5 cards. And then, if there are undealt cards, right, remember we dealt 20 first, right, 5 to each player. Now there is still another 20 here. Another 5 cards are dealt to each player. And then, so 5 cards are dealt to each player. So now let's try to, remember, once again, we're trying to capture cards. So what I'll do, capture by matching there. There we go. Remember, each player keeps the cards that they captured, right? So now it's my turn. I'm going to look here. I'm going to say, hey, I can capture by matching here. And so that's what we'll do. My apologies, I was clicking the wrong button there. What just happened there? Why didn't that work? There we go. There. So that's a Cuarenta. Why? The 6 was immediately played by the player before me, and I immediately captured it. So I'd get 2 points for that. That's a Cuarenta. Once again, that king was immediately played, and then it was immediately captured. So now a 6 is played. I'll play a king here. Remember, a Cuarenta is only by capturing by matching, right? That's Cuarenta. That 4 was immediately played. It was matched with a 4. So that's a 2-point bonus. Let's go with another Cuarenta here. It's Cuarenta. Capturing the card just played by the previous player by matching, right? That 5 was just played and I immediately matched it. I was capturing by addition. The 3. In this case I can't capture, so I'll just play my apologies there. Went to the side there when I didn't mean to, but I'll just play my 4 there. So let's talk about the scoring here. So teams score for the cards that they have taken. And so each team scores counts as collected cards, right? And so a team with 20 cards scores 6 points. A team with more than 20 cards scores 1 extra point for each card. Round it up to the next even number. And so, just ignore what's going on the screen right now. Let me finish my description here. And so, this is after all 40 cards have been played. And so, a team with 20 cards would score 6 points. And then for each additional card, you'd score an extra point, right? So if I had 21 cards, I'd score 7 points. If I had 22 cards, I'd score 8 points. So if a team with 21 or 22 cards scores 8 points, because you score an extra point for each extra card, rounded up to the next even number. 23 or 24 cards score 10 points, 25 or 26 cards score 12 points, and so on. If both teams take 20 cards, then only the non-dealing team scores 6 points. If neither team gets as many as 20 cards, the team with the greater number of cards scores just 2 points. And so note, when we were counting the cards there, I believe one team was 17 and one team was 18. Then the team with the greater number of cards would obtain 2 points, but the other team would obtain no points. And so Once again, if you have a tie, then the non-dealing team would score 2 points. So, if you have more than 20 cards, you score 1 extra point for each additional card, rounded up to the next even number. If you have more than 20 cards in a tie, then the non-dealing team scores 6 points. If you have less than 20 cards, the team with the greater number of cards scores 2 points. If you have less than 20 cards with a tie, the non-dealing team scores 2 points. First team to reach 40 points, aka that's why the game is also called 40, wins the game. So that essentially wraps it up. It's actually sort of simple here. And so let's just look at the point total we have here. And we'll play an ace here. So the point total is 8-6. Now it's 10-6. Right, and so it'd take a long time to obviously it'll take a really long time to get to 40 points, and so we're not going to play till all 40 points. Now we are going to wrap up the video here. Let's sum it up one more time. 5 cards to each player. Okay, and so dealing is an advantage, and so we're just going to talk about how to actually deal properly. The first dealer, I guess an easier way of determining it is by shuffling the deck and dealing face-up cards. The first player to receive a diamond is the first dealer. After each hand, the turn to deal passes to the left, right? And so each hand would be each set of 5 cards. 5 cards are dealt to each player in a single batch of 5, beginning with the player to the dealer's left. And so let's just take a pause here, right? You might remember me saying that the 8s, 9s, and 10s are used to keep score. The face downside counts as 2 points, and the face upside counts as 10 points. Even though you have, I know a face up 10 counts as 10 points, right? That's easy. Even the face up 9 counts as 10 points, just when you're keeping score. And so I guess it's an easier way to keep score rather than writing it down, right? You don't really need to get external resources. And so do note that 5 cards are dealt to each player, and then each team wants to play out their cards, right? The play begins to the dealer's left, and play passes clockwise. There's 3 ways you can play and capture cards from the table. The objective is to capture as many cards as you can from the table. The player sitting across from you is your partner. So matching, if the played card is the same rank as a card on the table, the matching card can be captured. Addition, if the played card is a number card, it can capture a set of cards whose values add up to that of the played card. And then finally, sequence. When a capture is made by matching or by addition, a card next higher in rank than the played card may also be picked up from the table, along with any further cards from the table, forming an unbroken upward sequence. So, if the face-up cards on the table are 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, Jack, then by playing a 2, you can capture the 2, 3, 4, 5. The 2 by matching, and the 3, 4, 5 by sequence. A sequence capture can only be made if the played card makes a matching or addition capture at the same time. If a 5 is on a table, for example, playing a 4 does not capture the 5 unless the 4 also makes a capture by matching or addition. And so, do note that if a player misses out on a sequence, then the other team gets to capture the cards for free. Also, so that's it, right? Matching, addition, or sequence. And then let's talk about 2 special cases. Kata. Capturing the card just played by a previous player via matching is called a Kata. The team which makes such a capture scores 2 extra points. Note that a capture is only a Kata if the card is captured by matching the next player in turn immediately after the captured card was played. Addition or sequence is not a Kata. It's only by matching. Olympia is if a player clears the table of all cards, that player's team receives 2 points for a Olympia or a clean. If you do a Kata and Olympia at the same time, so you capture the previous card played via matching while also cleaning the table of any cards, then you receive 2 points for the Kata and 2 points for the Olympia. New deals, right? And so then you'd re-deal 5 cards to each player, and then you'd replay, right? And then after all 40 cards have been played, team score for the cards that they have taken. Each team scores its collected cards. A team with 20 cards scores 6 points. A team with more than 20 cards scores 1 extra point for each extra card, rounded up to the next even number. So, a team with 21 or 22 cards scores 8, 23 or 24, 10. Right? If you had 25, well, then you'd score 5 extra points, rounded up to the nearest even number, well, you'd score 12. Sorry. If you had 25, right, you'd score 6 plus 5. That'd be because every additional card after 20, that'd be 11. Rounded up to the nearest even number, that would be 12. If both teams are tied, then the non-dealer team scores 6 points. If both teams have more than 20 cards and are tied, if neither team gets no, you can't have more than 20 cards and be tied. My apologies. I forgot how to do mathematics there. If both teams have, since there are only 40 cards, if both teams have 20 cards, I think I made this error before too. If both teams have 20 cards and are tied, right, because that's the only way you could tie, is if both teams had 20 cards, then the non-dealing team scores 6 points. Now, if neither team gets as many as 20 cards, the team with the greater number of cards scores just 2 points. When both teams have the same number of captured cards but fewer than 20 cards each, the non-dealing team scores 2 points. The first team to 40 points wins the game. So that literally sums up how to play Cuarenta. There are a couple things I want to touch on. Notice how in the bottom right there, I had a button at the start of the round, right? I had a button. And it said Ronda. So a Ronda is a player who has received 3 cards of the same rank, right? So if I had 3 aces in my deal, I'd immediately say Ronda. The player's team then collects 4 points but does not reveal the rank of the Ronda. And so, yeah, if you get a 3 of a kind, you get 4 points if you say you Ronda. What else? Well, that's pretty much it. It's a simple game, right? Just playing. You play out all the cards and then you score them accordingly, how I stated. The first team to 40 wins the game. Do note that I said you'd keep score using the 8s, the 9s, and the 10s, right? So each of these cards represents 2 points when... I got it confused. My apologies. 2 points when face up. And then each of these cards represents 10 points when face down. The score could just as well be kept on paper if you'd like that. But this traditional method is a bit more fun, right? You want to try to stay to the traditions of the card game whenever you can. And so 2 points when face up and 10 points when face down. And so you'd keep using the 2 point, 2 point, 2 point. And then when you get to 10 points, right, you'd flip a card down. It's sort of like tallying, right? Like making a tally chart when you slash it to indicate a group of 5. Similarly, you'd place a card face down to indicate 10 points. What else? Well, one more thing that I forgot to state here. There are 2 special announcements, right? After the deal, the Ronda, if you have a 3 of a kind, you score 4 points. And if one player is dealt a 4 of a kind, the cards are shown and that player's team wins the entire game immediately. They get those 40 points immediately. So if there's a 4 of a kind, the player's team gets 40 points and they win the entire game immediately. So that's sort of counterintuitive, but it is a risk and it is something that can happen. So it's sort of fun and interesting, right? If a team gets a 4 of a kind, they call out the 4 of a kind, and they win the game immediately. If a team gets a 3 of a kind, they'd call out Ronda, and then they would collect 4 points. Other than that, that wraps up how to play Cuarenta. Do note that the actual playing is easy, and if you just can keep track of the scoring, that's easy as well. Remember, above 20 cards, 6 points. If both teams tied at 20, non-dealing team takes 6 points. If both teams have less than 20, the team with the greater number of cards scores 2 points. If both teams have less than 20 and are tied, the non-dealing team scores 2 points. Playing, addition, matching, addition sequence, and then you have your 2 special cases of Kata and Limpia. And then once again, you also can call a ronda if you have a 3 of a kind, and if you have a 4 of a kind, you show it and you win the game. Ronda is 4 points. Keita is 2 points. Olympia is 2 points. When I summed it up like that, I just summed it up in 30 seconds and it made it seem pretty simple. That's because it is pretty simple. So that wraps up. And that wraps up how to play Cuarenta. And then Cuarenta, sorry. I'm having trouble pronouncing. Or 40, right? Which is the easier way to pronounce it. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this somewhat different, unorthodox, weird card game.